Imagine you're just starting out, right?
Yeah.
Eager to make your mark on the world. You ask two dads for advice.
Okay.
One says, get a good job, a secure job with a pension.
Mm.
The other one says, learn how to make money work for you. Which dad's advice sounds more appealing?
I think we both know the answer to that.
Yeah. Well, that's the central idea behind Rich Dad, Poor Dad
Yeah.
by Robert Kiyosaki. And today, we're diving deep, into its key lessons, hopefully uncover some aha moments about building wealth.
It's a book that really, I think, challenges kind of the conventional wisdom around money and success.
Exactly. And Kiyosaki does this by introducing these two contrasting figures.
Right.
His own father, the poor dad, and his friend's father, the rich dad.
Yeah. Two sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
I mean, Poor Dad represents that traditional path that we're often told to follow, good grades, secure job, work hard, and hopefully you'll be comfortable.
Right. But Rich Dad flips the script entirely.
It does, yeah.
Focusing on financial literacy, taking control of your financial future. I mean, he didn't even finish high school.
Right.
But built a business empire.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable.
Yeah. So, right off the bat, the book challenges us to examine our own beliefs about money. Are we playing it safe like Poor Dad? Or thinking outside the box like Rich Dad?
That's the question, yeah. And those beliefs that you kind of develop early on can have a huge impact on your financial journey.
Now, one of the most famous takeaways from Rich Dad, Poor Dad is this idea of assets versus liabilities.
Right.
The rich buy assets. The poor buy liabilities, Rich Dad would say. It sounds simple, but it's really profound, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And it really challenges the way we think about spending. A lot of people hear that owning a home is a great investment, but Rich Dad throws a wrench in that thinking.
Right. He argues that if your house is draining your income with a mortgage, taxes, repairs, it's not an asset, it's a liability. Talk about a mind shift.
It's a wake-up call for a lot of people, yeah. An asset, in Rich Dad's view, is something that puts money in your pocket, like a rental property that generates income or a business that brings in cash flow.
So those fancy gadgets or designer clothes we often splurge on,
Yeah.
those are liabilities.
Yeah.
Sucking money out of our pockets.
Exactly. The challenge is to be more mindful of our spending habits and really ask ourselves, is this purchase going to make me richer in the long run?
It makes you reevaluate your priorities, doesn't it? Instead of trying to keep up with the Joneses, maybe we should be focusing on building real wealth.
Yeah, for sure. And speaking of building wealth, Rich Dad really emphasizes that it's not just about working hard, it's about working smart.
Right.
It's about using your income to acquire income-generating assets and break free from the rat race.
Ah, yes, the dreaded rat race, the cycle of working, earning, and spending, with very little to show for it in the end.
Yeah, and what's so fascinating about Rich Dad's perspective is that he believes escaping the rat race, it isn't about winning the lottery or striking it rich overnight. It's about making strategic choices with your money, focusing on long-term growth and building systems that generate income even when you're not actively working.
Exactly. Think about it. What if, instead of buying a bigger house or a fancier car with that raise, you invested in a rental property that generates monthly income?
Right, or maybe start a side hustle that could eventually become a full-fledged business.
It's about shifting your mindset from working for money to making money work for you.
That's the essence of financial freedom, isn't it?
It really is.
Yeah.
But to be honest, sometimes the thought of starting a business or diving into investing can be pretty intimidating. I know I've felt that fear holding me back.
Yeah. Fear is a natural part of the journey, but Rich Dad encourages us to kind of reframe that fear. He saw failures as learning opportunities, essential stepping stones on the path to financial success.
So instead of saying, I can't afford to invest, maybe we should ask ourselves, how can I afford to invest? It's about getting creative, exploring different options, challenging our own limiting beliefs.
Yeah, that shift in language from, I can't to how can I, it's incredibly powerful. It opens up possibilities. It encourages us to take action, even if it feels a bit uncomfortable at first.
Right. It's about taking control of our financial destiny, building systems that work for us, and ultimately creating a life where money is no longer a source of stress, but a tool for creating the life we truly want.
And that's what truly sets Rich Dad, Poor Dad apart. It's not just about getting rich, it's about financial empowerment.
And that empowerment starts with knowledge.
Yeah.
Rich Dad consistently emphasizes the importance of financial literacy. of understanding how money works. So much of what holds us back is simply not knowing where to start.
Absolutely. The more you learn about investing, entrepreneurship, and the mechanics of money, the more confident you'll become in making smart financial decisions.
So before we move on, think about this. What's one small step you can take today to increase your financial knowledge? Maybe it's picking up a book on investing or researching a business idea you've been dreaming about.
That's a great challenge to leave our listeners with. Remember, even small steps can lead to big changes over time.
It's funny, we often hear about those overnight success stories, people who seem to strike it rich out of nowhere. But Rich Dad, Poor Dad challenges that narrative, doesn't it?
Yeah, for sure. Rich Dad's philosophy, it wasn't about getting rich quick. It was about building long-term wealth through strategic planning. And as we've been talking about, acquiring assets. He believed that anyone, regardless of their background, could achieve financial freedom if they adopted the right mindset
Right.
and took consistent action.
And that's where this idea of systems comes in. Rich Dad was all about building systems that work for you, even when you're not physically working. Can you elaborate on that a little?
Absolutely. Think of it like this. Instead of trading your time for money, you build something that generates income passively. So whether you're sleeping, on vacation, or spending time with family, your system is working in the background, bringing in that sweet passive income.
Okay, that sounds amazing in theory. But how does someone actually go about building one of these systems? It feels a bit like a mystery, like something only these, super savvy entrepreneurs know how to do.
Right. Well, it's not as mysterious as it might seem. Remember, Rich Dad always stressed that financial education is key. The more you understand about business, about investing, and how money works, the better equipped you'll be to create a system that works for you.
So for someone who's just starting out, what would be a good first step in, demystifying this whole building systems thing? Where do you even begin?
A great place to start is by identifying your skills and your passions. What are you naturally good at? What do you enjoy doing? What problems can you solve for others?
So it's not just about chasing some abstract idea of a money-making system. It's about tapping into your own strengths and your interests.
Exactly. Let's say you're a whiz at graphic design. Could you create an online course teaching others your design skills? Or maybe you love baking. Could you start a home-based bakery business? Or perhaps you have a knack for writing. Could you build a platform sharing your knowledge through ebooks or online content?
I see what you're getting at. It's about taking something you're already good at and passionate about and figuring out how to create value for others, essentially turning your passion into a profit.
Precisely. And the beauty of the digital age is that there are so many platforms and resources available to help you build and scale your system. You could create an online course, launch an e-commerce store, or even build a following on social media and monetize your influence. The possibilities are really endless.
This is making me think about, those people who complain about not having enough time to pursue their passions. But maybe it's not about finding the time. It's about designing a system that frees up your time in the long run.
Now you're getting it. Rich Dad was a big believer in leveraging your time and your resources. Instead of working harder, you work smarter, building a system that generates income even when you're not actively working.
Okay, so let's say you have this amazing idea, this system that aligns perfectly with your passions and has the potential to generate income. What are some practical steps to actually get it off the ground?
Well, like any worthwhile endeavor, it takes effort and dedication. You'll need to invest some time and resources up front to learn the necessary skills, build your platform, and market your product or service.
So is it safe to say that building one of these systems, it isn't about getting rich quick. It's about playing the long game, making smart investments, and putting in the work consistently?
Absolutely. There's no magic formula or overnight success when it comes to building a system that generates lasting wealth. It's about creating something of value, solving problems for others, and being patient as your system grows and evolves over time.
But the payoff, if you're successful, is pretty incredible, wouldn't you say? Imagine having the freedom to work on your own terms, set your own hours, and pursue your passions without being tethered to a traditional job.
Yeah, I mean, that's the ultimate goal, isn't it? To have control over your time and your finances, and to build a life where work doesn't feel like a chore, but like an extension of your passions and your purpose.
And it all starts with taking that first step, believing that financial freedom is possible, and that you have the power to create a system that works for you.
Exactly. Rich Dad believed that anyone could achieve financial success, but it required a willingness to learn, to take risks, and to never stop growing.
It's empowering, isn't it? This idea that we don't have to be stuck in the rat race forever, that we can break free and build a life of abundance and purpose.
And that's one of the most valuable lessons Rich Dad Poor Dad offers. It challenges us to question the status quo, to think outside the box, and to believe in our own ability to create a better financial future for ourselves.
Speaking of challenging the status quo, Rich Dad Poor Dad also tackles the subject of fear, particularly the fear of losing money. I think that's something that holds a lot of people back from investing or taking risks. How does Rich Dad address that?
You're right. Fear is a major obstacle for many when it comes to finances. But Rich Dad believed that fear was a natural part of the process, and actually a sign that you're pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone. He argued that the biggest risk is not taking any risks at all.
So instead of letting fear paralyze us, we should embrace it as a signal that we're on the right track, that we're moving towards something bigger than ourselves.
Exactly. Think about it. Every successful entrepreneur, investor, or innovator has faced fear and uncertainty along the way. But they didn't let that fear stop them. They learned from their mistakes, adapted their strategies, and kept moving forward.
It's almost like fear becomes a fuel, a motivator to push through and achieve your goals. But how do you actually go about overcoming that fear, especially when it comes to something as personal and sometimes daunting as your finances?
Well, Rich Dad had a great analogy for this. He said that the poor often say, I can't afford it, while the rich ask, how can I afford it? It's a subtle shift in language, but it makes a world of difference.
I love that. It's about reframing limitations and opportunities. Instead of shutting down possibilities, you're opening yourself up to creative problem solving and exploring different solutions.
Precisely. So instead of saying, I can't afford to invest in that rental property, you might ask, how can I adjust my budget or explore different financing options to make this investment possible?
It's about taking control, being proactive, and refusing to let fear dictate your financial decisions.
And remember, knowledge is power. The more you understand about investing, business, and the mechanics of money, the less intimidating it becomes.
So let's say you're ready to take that leap, to invest in yourself, to start building your system. What advice would you give someone who's just starting out on this journey? It can feel overwhelming, right? Like, where do you even begin? Rich Dad, Poor Dad throws a lot of information at you, and it can be hard to know what to focus on first.
You're absolutely right. It's easy to get caught up in the excitement of all these possibilities, but the key is to start small and build momentum gradually. Don't try to do everything at once.
So maybe instead of quitting your job tomorrow and launching a full-blown business, you start by dedicating an hour each day to learning about a specific investment strategy or researching potential business ideas.
Exactly. Remember, building a successful system takes time and consistent effort. It's about taking small, manageable steps and celebrating those wins along the way.
I think that's a great point, especially for those of us who tend to get overwhelmed easily. It's not about making drastic changes overnight. It's about incorporating those Rich Dad principles into our daily lives, bit by bit.
Absolutely. And one of the most fundamental principles, as we've discussed, is financial literacy. The more you learn about how money works, the more confident you'll become in making those smart financial decisions.
It's like learning a new language, isn't it? Once you understand the vocabulary and the grammar, you can start expressing yourself more fluently and effectively.
That's a great analogy. And the beauty of financial literacy is that there are so many resources available to help you learn. There are books, podcasts like this one, online courses, financial advisors. You just have to take that first step and start exploring.
So let's say someone's listening to this and they're feeling inspired, ready to take action. What's one concrete piece of advice you'd give them to kickstart their journey towards financial freedom?
I'd say start by taking a close look at your current financial situation. Track your income and expenses, identify areas where you can cut back, and start setting aside a portion of your earnings for investing or building your system.
It's about creating a budget, right?
Hmm?
But not just a restrictive, joyless budget, but a plan that aligns with your goals and allows you to allocate resources strategically towards building that future you envision.
Precisely. Your budget should be a tool that empowers you, not restricts you. It should be a reflection of your priorities and a roadmap toward achieving your financial goals.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought. Remember that quote, "The rich buy assets, the poor buy liabilities." It's not just about the things you buy, it's about the mindset you cultivate.
That's a great point. It's about shifting your perspective from consumerism to creation, from working for money to making money work for you. It's about taking ownership of your financial destiny and building a life of abundance and purpose.
And remember, You don't have to do it alone. There are countless resources available to help you along the way. Find mentors, join communities, read books, and never stop learning.
And most importantly, believe in yourself. Believe that financial freedom is possible for you and that you have the power to create a system that supports your dreams and aspirations.
That's the legacy of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, isn't it? It's about empowering us to take control of our financial future and build a life we truly love. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep striving for financial freedom.